Fantasy baseball waiver wires may seem like they're getting thinner day by day, but there are surprisingly a lot of good players available in a majority of leagues. In this video, I'm breaking down the best waiver wire ads for this week, the hottest pickups everyone is chasing, and the names that are actually worth your roster consideration before the rest of your league catches on. Like it, hype it, bang it. I'm Chris, and welcome to Number 2 Sports. Guess who's back? Back again. Marte's back. Tell a friend. I think that is way more cringy than I intended to be. But first up here, we got my boy, my lover, my hero, Noelvi Marte off the Cincinnati Reds. So Marte definitely was one of my biggest preseason busts so far. I'm not afraid to admit that, but maybe there's still time for him. Who knows? We'll see. I just never expected him to get platooned against lefties, like not in my wildest dreams, because usually Sidney Sweeney appears in those. Like it just seems so backwards to me, because in 2025, he posted an ugly 562 OPS against Southpaws, but a solid, decent 821 OPS against righties. So the fact that Terry Boy was sitting him against righties and only hitting him against lefties seems brain dead to me. But I'm clearly not a manager of a baseball club, so I have no idea the rationale or reasoning behind that. So yeah. Marte down in AAA, though, has been a different story, and I know you can't compare it. It's not apples to apples. Marte's beating up on guys who aren't talented enough to make major league rosters most nights, but he still did hit 369, 409, 575 with 8 home runs and 9 steals in 40 games. And you just can't convince me the Reds wouldn't have been better sticking with Marte as their starting fielder this entire time over some of these other guys that they've been trotting out and have just been hitting terribly. So Marte has been playing center field lately to try and get him some easier reads off the bat there and maybe some more position flexibility for the Reds. But like seriously, the Reds right fielders this year have hit 206, 279, 284, and their center fielders have come in at a whopping 209, 312, 312. Not really crushing the ball by any means. So it doesn't matter anymore what Marte did last year or how good of a prospect he was or projected to be or whatever happened with the roids. Fantasy baseball is about the present and heading into the future. And Marte just needs to be successful in this stint in the MLB to prove that he belongs. I just feel like the time is simply running out for him if he doesn't pile up some productive stretch of baseball games here in the next few weeks. The talent is there for a power speed threat. He's a premium athlete even off the roids with raw power and swing ability. He needs to clean up the strikeouts and swing decisions, and I'm absolutely ready to get my heart broke one more time for my boy, Noelvi Marte. Oh, and just a heads up for all you guys out there, I was on a golf trip with the boys on the weekend and I've lost my voice and I can tell it still sounds like crap. So all you voice haters out there, I love you guys, by the way. It might be extra worse, so like he is. But sticking on the topic of Noelvi Marte, let's talk about the other main guy in that trade, the Luis Castillo deal years back now, and that's going to be Edwin Arroyo, who was just called up to make his major league debut on Monday due to Ellie's hamstring injury. So at 22 years old, Arroyo was batting 323, 383, 562 with 11 home runs and 9 steals in 53 games playing alongside Marte in AAA. Now there could be enough upside here, definitely worth chasing. He pulls enough fly balls in the air to become a 20 home run guy in Cincy. There is some speed here. He has solid plate discipline. He has a 17% K rate, a 21.1% whiff rate, and makes solid contact. But he has poor bat speed at only 68.8 miles per hour. He rarely walks, only a 7% walk rate, and his exit velocity, his average exit velocity, his max exit velocity, and his hard hit rate are just average at best. With a little cherry on top that all his expected stats are actually a lot worse than his actuals. Arroyo definitely has a hyper-aggressive approach at the plate, and pitchers are going to try and exploit that, continually pitching him outside. If he can adjust and hit to that, there is loads of potential here. If Arroyo hits, simply, he's just going to stick in the lineup. He'll stick with the big league club. He's the Reds' future, and in my mind, he's just the definition of a lottery ticket. So for borderline prospect guys like this, my motto is kind of you add them so you don't miss out on them, see how it goes for a couple weeks, and if they're dog shit, if they're terrible, You just cut him and move on. So it's not often that I highlight a long reliever in the main waiver wire section, or I guess formally long reliever as you start and get stretched out, but this guy's stuff is just downright nasty. So say hello to Mr. Shane Drowan. So Drowan is a 27-year-old rookie lefty reliever who's currently getting transformed, metamorphed into a starter over the next couple of weeks, and his arsenal is just nasty. It consists of a 95-mile-per-hour four-seamer, which we know is above average velo from the left side, with some great arm side movement. Like, look at this pitch here. If we try and break it down slow, batter thinks it's maybe bleeding over the heart of the plate where he needs to make his swing decision, maybe middle, but it just tails back at the last second to paint it on the outside and gets a nice whiff out of it. He follows that up with a sinker at 94 miles per hour and then a slider at 86 with some insane drop in movement to it, and it's just his go-to whiff pitch, generating 3 on his last outing. The cutter and curveball rounded up, curveball making hitters look foolish at times, giving him a valuable option to attack both sides of the plate, lefties and righties. And the biggest plus of all for this guy halfway through his player segment is the team he pitches for, the Milwaukee Brewers. They're just churning out guys left, right, and center, players immediately hitting their ceilings when they get there. Like, look at Kyle Harrison this year. Oh my God, let alone what Jay Miz is doing. I believe in their coaching staff, and I believe there is more potential here than risk. Drohan looks like he's a bit more polished, a bit more complete than other rookie pitchers, hopefully limiting that awful blow-up stuff that you have to worry about. Like, just look at what we saw with Sandlin earlier this week. Oh my. I think the main concerns with him would be any sort of innings limit or him potentially getting pushed back to the pen later when they get some guys back healthy. His next start is in Colorado, and we know how we feel about pitchers in Colorado, so let's not overreact if something goes bad there. He's pitching there the day I'm uploading this video, so yes, I am a little scared about it. I like Drowan though, and I think he's becoming a sneaky ad in 12+ team leagues right now. If he can lock down, if he can hold on to the starting pitching spot for the Milwaukee Brewers. Everyone's a sucker for the stash and mustache, unless you know you're the Bricks and Minifig CEO. If you know, you know. And this one is no different. He's batting .340 with 13 home runs, a .590 slugging percentage, and a 1.002 OPS. Yohandy Morales is just chomping at the bit for his time, for his shot in the major leagues. And I honestly think he would have got it by now if it hasn't been for Curtis Mead, who is another guy that you probably should add if he's still available in your league, just hasn't been playing such good baseball. So the prospect savant page is quite nice, quite tingly, but kind of like bipolar here, as you can tell. All the hard hit metrics that you can see are just scorching red, practically in the 90th percentile or better for all of them. But then you look down a little bit and you see the blue, you see the plate discipline and swing decisions. And you just see he chases, whiffs, and strikes out a lot with not a good walk rate. Add in that he's rocking a .424 BABIP, and you can see why his expected stats are much lower than his actuals. But the raw power is legit, the swing tools are there, and if the Nationals are either willing to let Mead or Garcia try out at second base again, a spot will be open for him with Brady House being demoted. I'm not rushing by any means to go and stash him, but if you're in a deep league, a deep competitive 12-man league, and you have an open NA spot, and a bunch of the higher, more prolific prospect guys are already stashed, everyone, and I mean everyone, can use a potential power boost. And if he's not going to give you power, at least maybe he'll give you a handy. Okay, and last up here, I definitely saved the best for last. My favorite guy out of this entire video, and who I think is just a must-add absolutely everywhere, that's going to be Bryce Eldridge from the San Francisco Giants. So when Eldridge first did get called up, the Giants were pretty clear that they weren't going to force him into the lineup. And they definitely did stick to that plan. And as a result, a lot of the excitement around him as a fantasy option faded pretty quickly if he wasn't going to be playing every day or even close to every day. And when he did play, it wasn't like the production was there either. But things started to change around May 23rd. An injury to Ramos allowed Casey Schmidt to move into the outfield, which opened up a spot for Eldridge and gave him a more regular playing time role. Since then, we've just started to see the flashes of the elite offensive upside that made him one of the top prospects in baseball. And honestly, I think this kind of adjustment period is quite common. These guys have spent their entire lives, as far back as they can remember, playing every single game, playing every day. They're not used to riding the pine and sitting out 1, 2, 3 games in a row and then getting pushed back into the lineup. They're not used to it. It can definitely have a toll on their mental and physical games. We do see it happen all the time, and it does look like Bryce Eldridge is finally settling in. So the guy's a monster. He's 6'7", plays at first base, and he just has unbelievable power. And if we look back to 2025, it was a pretty unremarkable debut, but he was only just 20 years old. Like, that is still crazy. You don't hear many prospects debuting at 20 years old. So that just shows you how much the Giants organization does think of him and how much potential he possibly does have. Because again, it does rarely happen. And all his hard hit metrics, his average exit velocity, his barrel rate, his hard hit percentage, were all ranked in the 99th percentile without really chasing and producing an almost 20% walk rate. Yes, I know the whiffs and Ks were not that good, but there are some growing pains to be expected for a big type dude like Aldridge from the left side in his first taste in the majors. So if we look at this year, it's the same thing practically. All his hard hit metrics are just bonkers. He has great bat speed, great pull air percentages, and you might be wondering, why hasn't he just got better results? And I think it's because, honestly, just the weird playing time in the beginning, just struggling to get in any sort of rhythm whatsoever, barely playing. Don't forget, this has just been a guy who's been able to hit lefties and righties his entire career. So he's not used to sitting. Eldridge hit 241, 328, 488 with a 10% swinging strike rate in 67 plate appearances in May and a 285 BABIP that I felt it should and could have just been a lot higher. There were a lot of hard hit balls, a lot of doubles that should have been out or hits that should have been hit that he just got robbed. And it's just no surprise his expected stats are absolutely crushing his actuals so far this year in 2026. Eldridge is hitting more line drives, he's hitting less ground balls, he's pulling the ball in the air more at really an astronomical rate. All positive things here. He's lengthened his swing. I felt last year his swing seemed a little short at 7.1 for such a big guy like him, so I'm happy he's lengthened a bit with his size and stature. And also his contact percentages are up across the board. I really just do think he's starting to get more comfortable the more and more he's getting acclimated to major league pitching. And I think the pitchers are sort of confirming that. They aren't giving him anything, really strikes or anything over the plate anymore. They don't want him to beat them. And that can just sometimes be a subtle tell when hitters are starting to get their feet and when we could potentially see some sort of breakout. So yes, Bryce Eldridge may have already been added and probably already dropped in your league depending on what he's done. But if he's still floating on the wire right now, I would not hesitate picking him up. I'd go get him right now because I do believe the power potential is just too good to leave on the wire compared to probably what else is out there. The power is crazy. And if he's playing every day now and things are starting to click, I want a piece of that cake. Okay, you saw the graphic. Now we're going to go over players who I think you should either add or avoid. And it's going to be 5 pitchers and 5 batters. First up here, let's go with a nice one. Let's go Dustin Mann. I know you can't just take away a couple starts because obviously it still counts toward their stat line. But if we did it for May and others like Ryan Nelson, if we just take away May's initial first 2 starts of the season and track his numbers for exactly 2 months since April 5th, we will just find a waiver wire stud with a 3.19 ERA, a 1.1 whip, and a 53-16 strikeout to walk ratio. He's striking out a ton of guys. He's reduced his fastball usage to 24% and upped his cutter usage to 26%, helping keep those ratios in line. And I actually was kind of close to including Dustin May in the main waiver wire section in this video. Then next up, we have Troy Melton, and he just keeps dealing. I know the strikeouts have been lacking a little bit or a little underwhelming, but you can't complain with the results whatsoever. He's getting better movement on his pitches. The strikeouts will come. Let's just be a little patient here because he has just been so incredibly efficient. I don't think he should be floating on any 12-team league wires right now. Okay, we'll keep going with Shane Baz. Now, what a turnaround, at least box score-wise, for the last 4 for Baz. Night and day pitcher from the one that we saw the other 8 starts. Maybe pitching 2 against his former teammates in Tampa Bay helped, and I haven't really noticed much change in his pitch movements or velo. In his last outing, though, his curveball usage did soar to 42% compared to where it had been in the low 30s, so he definitely had a better feel for that. So if he continues to have a better feel for his curveball, I do think this is a real positive and a step in the right direction. But regardless of that, do I necessarily think that he's turned the corner here? Probably not, but confidence can go a long way in how a pitcher pitches, so it's not to undermine that. But he's in Toronto in his next outing, and if you have him, you'll continue to hold. And if he's available, I'd definitely be watching that next start in Toronto very closely. I think it's a small step in the right direction for Baz, but I need to still see a little bit more. Next up, we have another guy who just keeps churning out good start after good start, and that's Ben Brown. Now, I don't know how much we've talked about him, if at all, really, about Ben Brown, maybe just slightly in a prior video, but Brown is a guy with, I like to call, a couple of empty velo heaters, an untrustworthy but solid changeup, and a wicked curveball. If he could consistently land this newest changeup and have the feel for it each outing, there is real potential here. But regardless of that, though, he's still a predominantly two-pitch pitcher, and I do think he has got a little bit lucky. He's running an extremely low BABIP at 244, an extremely low home run to fly ball ratio at 2.6%, and of course his expected ERA and expected FIP are closer to 3 rather than his actuals. But we got the hitless Giants up next, so he's an obvious start for that, and then he's in Coors. So I am really curious over the next couple starts here if he is going to get a little bit of negative regression on his BABIP luck as he continues to get hit fairly hard each outing. Still though, if you have him, you're not dropping him, of course, and you're starting him, especially with the Giants on deck. Okay, and last up, we got Noah Cameron. If you guys have been following the channel, you guys know I'm not a very big fan of soft tossing lefties, which is what Noah Cameron is, but it does look like he's starting to get his command back a little bit to where it was in 2025 when he had stretches that he was very useful for fantasy. But again, like I kind of said back then, I think the ceiling is very limited. I kind of view him as a solid streamer, but I'm not like rushing to add him, and I'd probably look elsewhere. Okay, on to the batters now with 5 juicy batters coming right your way. And first up, we got Jorge Mateo. Now his bat speed's up 2 miles per hour. His average exit velocity is about 3 miles per hour from his career mark. He's sporting a career high hard hit rate, career high barrel rate, and he's pulling the ball at a 25% clip, which is way up from his career average of 18%. So does all that make us really care in the end? I don't think so really at all. I'm kind of viewing this similar to like the Aldalmo Vargas style hot streak here, where it's eventually going to cool off and all this underlying stuff doesn't really matter. He's still a 30-year-old who's given us zero reason in the past to think any bit of this is real and sustainable. Okay, and then we'll keep going with Vaughn Grissom. Now, it's kind of funny that the Red Sox traded Kyle Harrison, who you know has just been like or looks like a top 15 starting pitcher this year, for Durbin, when they could have just kept Grissom. But you know, you do you, Boston. But yeah, Grissom is hitting well lately. He's added some bat speed, upped his attack angle, and pulling the ball in the air more. All things that we like around here. He's still only 25 years old, and this could be the start of him finally coming around, and I'd be keeping a very close eye. Another guy that is getting extremely close to being the main waiver wire section here over the next couple of weeks. Next up, we got the ageless wonder, Paul Goldschmidt. Now, Goldie is turning back the clock here, playing so well, batting 276 with 7 home runs, a 533 slugging percentage, and 23 RBIs. Yankees really haven't missed Giancarlo Stanton in the middle of the order at all. He's hitting the ball hard, making tons of contact with all his expected stats right around his actuals, which you like to see. And honestly, he's just playing good baseball right now. And he would really be good enough to be in the main waiver wire section. I just don't know how much you can trust it. Again, he's a 38-year-old in his age 38 season. And with how poor he was, how poor he fared in Yankee Stadium last year, I don't know if this is going to hold up rest of season, but you know, who knows? Maybe he goes on top. This is his last hurrah, and he puts a nice cap on his Hall of Fame career. You can add him in the midst of this hot streak, but the second that I think he goes cold for any extended period of time here, we got to cut him and move on. Next up, we got Nicky Gonzalez. Now, he had a little power streak here for his first 2 home runs of the season this week, which is probably that's all that needed to be said about his hitting profile. There won't be power. He's hit 14 home runs total in his last 1,000 plate appearances. He's the stereotypical contact first guy who doesn't strike out, but then doesn't steal any bases, which is rarely useful for fantasy purposes. And Nick is no exception. Next up, we got Chasey Boy. We talked about him last week, and he just continues to hit. The power is still very suspect and only has 1 stolen base, but if you need some OBP and hits in a category league, he probably shouldn't be available in the wire in 12-team leagues right now, if you need hits and OBP, of course. And last up, we got the jockstrap, Jock Peterson, with a 945 OPS, 8 extra base hits in his last 9 games, leading off for the Rangers. It's been an impressive run. He's ranked 7th in his last 14 days, but I hate that he's only UT eligible in Yahoo leagues, at least. I'm not sure what he is in the other platforms, but in the end, this is a guy that's just been known for very hot streaks and very cold streaks. And I think he's just in the midst of a hot streak right now, but at least compared to some other guys like Jorge Mateo, that he has some track record to fall back on. And maybe 2025 just was an anomaly and he's bouncing back in 2026. I'm personally not upset if I miss out on him on the wire, but I also can't fault you guys for chasing him when he's hitting the baseball this well. Okay, now let's move on to the recap section where I recap my prior waiver wire video each week to see how those guys guys performed and see if a punishment is justified. So we're recapping my waiver wire video from May 29th. And first up, oh boy, this one hurts. It was like as worst as you can imagine. David Sandlin. Now, I told you guys you had to be super cautious, especially starting a rookie pitcher when his first two outings, back-to-back outings, are against the same team. It's just super tough situation to be in. We'll have to see how the next one goes, obviously, but this is a massive L here. Next up, though, we had Gage Jump, and this one was a lot better, and the stuff is so electric. I don't like the home ballpark at all, but going 7 against the Cubs in Wrigley was impressive, and I'm excited to see him pitch again against Houston. Then we had Kalen Culpepper, still a nice stash. Cole Carrig, still a nice stash. Then we had Jackson Holiday, and it's still kind of wild that he's still only 45% owned in Yahoo. Even if we account for, say, 10 to 15% of dead leagues by now, that's still 40% in the rest of active leagues. He might just be starting to figure out. It's crazy that he's still only 22 years old. So yeah, Jump and Holiday were good, but there's just no way you guys would ever respect me again if we didn't have a punishment for David Sandlin. So here we go. But alright guys, that's it for this video. Another waiver wire video in the books. If you haven't subbed, make sure you hit that sub button. It'll help me a lot trying to grow this channel. I love doing this shit. Again, I'm going to respond to every comment, every video, every single time for free. It's my favorite part about making these videos, so make sure you shoot something down below. Like it, hype it, bang, and maybe I'll try and get another double video week one of these times. Let me know down below what type of video, like a buy low, sell high, panic meter, something like that, or a rankings list, and I'll see if I can try and fit it in one of these weeks. But as always, have a good rest of your weekend, day, night, wherever you are, and I'll see you guys real soon.